Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Slava, a very strong battleship at tier 10 of course. This ship is one of the more accurate battleships in the game, and you know me, I'm always looking for very accurate ships, and yet I often was recommending the Ohio. Well, this game might have changed things. For the current meta, Ohio tends to struggle to push in and really get full value out of its toolkit that it has. Much tankier hull, its heals come back nice and quick, it's of course got secondaries, and the guns certainly perform better at closer ranges thanks to their overmatch, but also the slow shell velocity there can be a bit of a problem at these longer ranges, giving people a lot of time to potentially dodge or, you know, the good old aim bug to crop up and land your shells short at longer ranges. Fast guns like the Slava get to the target quicker and are more likely to hit a broadside. Also, the dispersion is just better on the Slava here. We are lacking some armor though, so this is a mid to long range ship. You're certainly going to be camping the back line a little bit more in this thing. And doesn't that sound like World of Warships today? So maybe you should be thinking Slava instead of Ohio. I'm surprised I'm saying that too. Typically, again, that has not been my call for Research Bureau battleships, but we're going to do some really good work here. You do have small caliber guns here, 406s, so you're not overmatching stuff. You also don't have very many guns, and their alpha damage is pretty low, right? Just even comparing to a Montana, your alpha damage is over 1,000 damage lower, and you're lacking 3 whole guns. So a bit of an issue, and we do need to make up for that with the accuracy, consistently punishing broadsides. If you're not getting any broadsides in the ship, it is going to struggle a lot to do damage. But really, why do we get a Slava? It's for dispersion like you're about to see here. It's just non-existent. Yeah, that is why you get this ship. Unfortunately, he turns in slightly, so that does mean we do miss the Citadel. Still good damage though. But the Citadel hits are really what we're looking for. That's obviously not the dispersion you're going to get all the time, but it can happen, certainly much more in the Slava. It even looks better than Funny Button Satsuma at times, which is pretty cool. Back turret, best turret, as always, getting ourselves a nice double Citadel there into the Laria. So that is where a lot of our damage can come from. You can see just how big a difference it makes to be landing Citadels in this thing. Very, very nice ship to play for that reason. This build is running range mod, although we're really not going to make use of it in this game all that much. Again, another Citadel. Just consistency, guys. I talk about this all the time. I'm just looking for consistency. And I've kind of been sleeping on Slava, I guess. I've been ignoring it in favor of an Ohio, things that are tankier, because as you know, I also like to push in and brawl it out. I have a lot of fun with that. And Slava really does struggle with that. We'll see that towards the end game here, as we will need to push in a little bit more. But in this role, mid to long range, it is devastating. That's what this ship can do. And we're going to hold our shot here. We're actually not even going to shoot this cruiser on the back line, even though we could. We are just looking for broadsides in this thing. That's one of the really key features of the Slava. If you do find yourself shooting at angled targets a lot, you're really not going to get the best out of a Slava. It's going to feel pretty weak, I would say. So you do need to be looking for opportunities to push flanks, as we're doing here, and get creative angles to find those broadsides. Finding a GK here. And Kurfürsts don't take Citadels, of course, because of that turtleback, or it's very rare. So we're going to have to rely on full pens. And we still do 26k. Keep in mind that was 7 full pens, though. So a pretty fortunate salvo. But that is the key here, is you're more often than not going to have shells landing where you aimed them. And if that sounds like a ship you're interested in, I think it is about time that I say Slava over Ohio. I'm sure a lot of people were already in that camp at this point. We've had a pretty passive game ever since subs released, and even before that, to be honest with you. But it's quite noticeable over the last year how passive things have got. And it's about time that I get with the times, adapt, as these people love to say. So we're going to do that. Slava is probably going to be played a little more by me. Not all the time. It's not going to be the only thing featured on this channel, of course. But I'm certainly going to be streaming and playing with this thing a little bit more. Range mod, of course, is just so nice for having those cross shots, potentially reaching out to a carrier as well. The range is fine without range mod, but I really just like having the option of hitting the opposite side of the map. Now in this game, our team kind of gets decimated here. It's always going to be a bit of an issue with the Slavas. You're not going to be able to push up and have that battle impact early on. Sometimes I talk about in Battleships. If you're trying to win games or help your team win games, you do need to push up a little more aggressively, and Slava is going to struggle with that. So the GK goes down, and hopefully we're not going to get lit on a perma fire here. And we're going to use our concealment, which is also a great feature of the Slava. It's better than normal concealment at tier 10 for a battleship. We're going to use that to turn out here. The cruiser here, not interested in eating a Slava salvo, so we'll let him get away this time, I suppose. Didn't help that he was angled, and so we probably wouldn't have done any damage anyway. Now we're broadside onto a Kremlin, but slow down, turn out, and the good old aiming bug, shells landing short. The auto-aim system really just doesn't take into account the speed or direction of the ship as it's changing. So if you slow down and turn out, well, the aiming system is going to put the shells low because they assume the ship's going to continue in a straight line at a consistent speed. It's really sad, but that auto-aim or aim assist is just miserable for trying to consistently land salvos on people that are maneuvering. And that's one of the reasons that it is so difficult with Ohio at longer ranges, because it gives more time to lead like that. Another nice feature is the ASWs. We don't have the gimped ASWs like the Ohio does. Only 6 kilometers on that thing, which is essentially useless. Slava does have a decent amount of range and damage on them. We'll pick up the Schlieffen as well. Look at this. Game's coming back a little bit. That is not necessarily going to become a win, but it's getting closer here. Although we do have to kite away here. And now we're meeting up with our Yamato. We definitely want to create a crossfire, though. The Albion Kremlin is pretty much the last thing we want to be fighting in this ship. We'll aim up into the superstructure and try and get some damage, but realistically, we do need to be finding his broadside to do any sort of meaningful damage. Yeah, 7,000, really not all that effective here. So we're going to head north, try and get out of line of fire for this Kremlin, complete our turn in even, and then try and pinch this guy a little bit with the little HP that we do have left here. As we can see, we don't have Kremlin HP pool, and the armor is much worse, which I'll show in a little bit once we get into port. Reload mod would have actually helped us maybe get a salvo into that Nevsky there. I'm not sure, but we do miss out on a salvo there. One of the main reasons I don't really find I need reload mod all that much. Again, actually that was pretty decent damage into Kremlin there for considering how angled he was. But I'm often just holding my shot anyway for the broadside ships in a Slava. It's not like I'm using the DPM. I'm really wanting those very rare but consistent high damage salvos in this thing. Almost like a bit of like a Vermont. Lit on a double fire, we will use our rep here. And this Kremlin, he's given us a lot of respect by angling this much at this range. But he's going to actually turn into the Yamato here. And we're holding our shot. We're greedy like that. We're going to hold our shot. We're already up to 200k damage, which is a pretty nice game overall. Kremlin does time it well to dodge the Yamato salvo, but we were patient. And the patience is going to pay off here, assuming we have consistent guns. And we do! Not every day you get to dev strike a Kremlin. Of course, at closer ranges kind of forced him into a bad position, but it's always a nice feeling to actually land that salvo consistently. Some other battleships probably dunk that into the water, and I'm frustrated. But this time we get up to 260k, and we get the second sub. There we go. And not quite enough time or enough HP to actually get a salvo into that Minotaur there. Otherwise, we probably kill him too. Nearly brought this one back from a ridiculous blowout. And really, I think showcases well what the Slava can do. Even at closer ranges, as much as this ship is a sniper, we do want to push up and create interesting angles at times, and that'll reward you with a lot of damage. As for the build here on the Slava, it's a bit of an odd one. Not sure if this is the way to go with it, but I didn't mention that Slava actually has pretty good AA, some of the best AA at tier 10. If it weren't for Vermont defensive fire, it would actually be the best AA. And it actually does stay alive, unlike Kremlin, where the secondaries and auxiliary armaments just kind of explode very, very quickly. So I am actually running these two upgrades because I am often playing at longer ranges, and I am often trying to play on a flank. So typically that means the carrier is just going to come after you. If you're not playing in the main blob of enemy ships where everyone clumps up, well, of course, Slava's not going to do well in that because everyone's going to angle to that blob of ships. So we need to create other avenues to get crossfires. And so that's where I'm actually running these. And it does okay, and it didn't get to showcase it here. You're still probably better off running Grease the Gears, maybe even Brisk, considering the concealment here. And we do want to be flanking as well, so don't just copy the build here. But I am kind of experimenting with this. But Adrenaline Rush, of course, and then these three upgrades here are just kind of required. Furious is just bait, at least until we see what this new super heavy AP becomes with the commander skill changes that they're proposing for a couple patches from now. But this is just bait, in my opinion. Even though we want the more alpha damage, I mean, it's just so much extra damage today when you don't have enough HP to deal with that in the first place, in my opinion. So probably do a more reasonable build than that one, but something I'm experimenting with. You could be running reload mod as well, not a big deal, but getting out to 28.6 often allows you to hit that carrier, which is always nice to do. Main battery reload is fine as well. No problem with that at all either. Especially if you do find yourself in situations where a lot of ships are showing you broadside. Yeah, the DPM would certainly come in handy. Although I find myself often waiting, even if my guns are loaded. Concealment system, you can see 13.2 is very, very nice. We're going to use prop mod because Russian battleships, for whatever reason, have just insane acceleration. So you can use that to juke a lot of incoming salvos if you're stationary, and it lets you get up to speed if you need to start going somewhere rather quickly. I'm even going to take auxiliary armaments to keep those AA mounts alive. Again, this is for this kind of obscure build that I'm running at the moment. Main armaments mod 1 is just probably more standard and better to go with. But yeah, the armor is the weak point, right? 25 up front. We do get a bit of an icebreaker thing here to protect the Citadel a bit. But even here, we only get 32 mil on the deck armor. So not even close to Kremlin. 60, 32, and then like a 60 mil plate up here yet. Even the Citadel armor here, 430, 410 on the Slava here, 370, 350, right? So much easier to Citadel a Slava, even though they look similar. Lower HP and much, much worse armor. But the guns you get are far more consistent and enjoyable to use, at least in my opinion. And that's why you get this thing. That consistency and the ability to play at longer ranges and not feel like you're not playing your ship to its fullest strengths, but the game is forcing you to play so far back because things are just so passive these days. The reasons to get Slava are many, and I'd probably get it over Ohio if I was picking now, which, again, I'm kind of shocked that I'm saying that. But hey, it's 2023 now. Wargaming has designed this game to be more and more passive with each ongoing patch, and with that comes different recommendations. So now we take the more passive battleship that does better into that meta. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.